right, I think I'm live now. My phone case is falling apart. All right, this is Monika Davis from at Monika's Place. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator in Georgia, and today I want to show you the Weekend Adventures Scrapbooking Workshop kit and give you some tips on putting it together. And we will start with showing you what is included in this kit. So let me get this out. All right, so you get your instructions. These are the 3 two-page layouts. This includes your cutting guide, and then your instructions for putting the 3 layouts together. So you get your instructions, you get designer series paper. So we have several double-sided designs. These are all your double-sided designs. Those are the backs. So in some cases you're using this side, and in other cases you'll be using this side. So pay attention when you're cutting. And then you've got some exclusive single-sided papers. These are 2 different wood grains, and these are actually the backgrounds on 2 of the layouts. I'll tell you again when I'm showing you the pages, but you might just want to pay attention that your wood grain for both pages is going in the same direction, so that you don't have like one going this way and one going that way. And that is on both of these wood grain papers. The backs are just white on those. Then you've got 2 pages of die cut pieces, and on the backs of the die cut pieces it tells you what project they belong to. There is one piece, I think it's this piece right here, that's labeled wrong. I think it goes on project number 1 instead of project number 2, but we will look at that in a minute. Let me see. Let me peek at my page. Yeah, I think this is the one. It's this square right here that's labeled wrong, but I have a note when we get to that page. Otherwise, the rest are okay. Then you have two-toned very vanilla. You have some two-toned basic beige, which is one of your base pieces. You've got some misty moonlight, some two-toned old olive. Then you've got your sticker sheet, and the pages put together as is. Do not use all of these stickers, so you'll have stickers left to do how you want. And then these are your photo placeholders, and then that's just your backing sheet. All right, let me put this back in the bag. This is a full kit. And then the optional technique on this particular kit is using linen thread. So you may want to add linen thread. And then, of course, adhesive. I use a ruler. You'll also possibly want an Embossing Buddy. Your scissors, your glue, your dimensionals, those kinds of things. So the way I start my process is I lay out my 3 base pages So I have the light wood grain is project number 1, the basic beige two-tone is project number 2, and the dark wood grain is project number 3. Then I go and separate out my photo placeholders. I separate out all my die cuts, and then I start cutting the papers. And as I cut, I label them with a pencil, so you want a pencil, and place them in the stack. So all of them that are labeled with 1 go on stack number 1. If they're labeled with 2 or 3, they go on those. The cutting guides, any piece that is white are extra pieces, and what I do with all my extra pieces is I stick them back into my Ziploc bag. So these are all the stickers I had left. So there's quite a few of those, and then these are all the paper pieces and the two-tone cardstock pieces that I had left over. So you can use those to make another layout. You could use them for cards. You can do whatever you would like with those. All right, so once I go through and I do all my cutting, so on this piece right here, let me show you. This one is probably not going to fit on your trimmer. So what you'll want to do is take a straight edge and a ruler, and I drew the pencil line actually on the blue side, so I wouldn't have to erase it because we're using the the pattern side for the page, and you're only using half. The other half would be extra, so you'd have another half that you could use on something else. But draw yourself a line from corner to corner and then cut it with scissors. Unless somehow you have a super long paper trimmer, you won't be able to fit. And then I used, even my 12-inch ruler won't fit across there. So I use the edge, not of my glass mat, but I've got another cutting mat, or maybe you have grid paper or something like that that you can use. So you'll need to do that and then cut it with your scissors. And then this piece right here, this diagonal piece, let me see if I can pull this one out. So what I did was I marked, well, first I cut this 5 inches away to get that 5 by 7 inch piece. And then what I did was I marked with my ruler. I measured 2 1/4 inches up and put a pencil point, and then I measured 5 1/4 inches up on the other end and put a pencil point, and then I drew a line, or you could just mark your 2 points and then line those up inside your trimmer. Let me grab my trimmer. So you do have just enough room to line those up and cut those. So what you would do is you'd line up your dot on this end and your dot on this end in the track, and it does kind of overlap that, and then you're going to slice it so that you get this angled piece. And you're going to end up with 2 of them. So you've got one here, and then you've got one there. I think let's see, 5 1/4 plus 2 1/4 is 7 1/2. Yeah, you've got enough paper there. Okay, so that's how you do this diagonal piece, and I will show you that when we get to that page. That's part of page 3, project 3. All right, those are the tips. Remember to kind of pay attention to the direction. Your trees are pointing sideways when you're doing your cutting. These, you've got your footprints facing upwards. And then these just show you dark versus light. And you could always switch what you're doing. All right, let's start with the first layout. Is this one. It's on the light two-toned paper. And so you just want to make sure that you've got them both facing, the wood grain is going in the same direction, right? I assume you'd want them going in the same direction. So I'm going to go through my notes here. So what I did was, on some of the stickers, I wanted them raised up, like this one, for example. I used the Embossing Buddy to remove the stickiness. You can also stick the stickers like onto your jeans or your shirt and stick it down. You just want to remove the stickiness so that, like, when I'm raising this up on dimensionals, and that's only if you're putting them on dimensionals. If you're sticking them flat, it might not matter to you. Make sure your wood grain's going in the same direction. All right, I added a 6-inch piece of linen thread on this tag right here. They have linen thread on the second page, so we will look at that. The other thing I wanted to point out was that I put dimensionals like under this tag, and it's overlapping this photo. But what I didn't do is I didn't remove the backing from the dimensionals. So it has the lift, but it's not stuck down yet. So I can still take this placeholder out, add my photo in, slide it under there, and then I can decide if I want to go ahead and remove the backings on those dimensionals to stick them down, or I don't have to, because I really just need the support. The other half of my tag is, adhered to the page. I did the same thing here, where there's a dimensional. I'm trying to see if I can show you what this looks like. Let's see. See how I have the dimensionals under there, but I didn't pull the backings off so that I can add my photos. And I did that on anywhere where I have something that's going over a photo, because I don't have my photos on there yet. So throughout all of these layouts, I have done that, where I've put the dimensionals on. I just didn't pull the backings off yet. And I might not even pull them off if I don't actually want them to stick to my photo. So those are my tips on that page. So I put this on dimensionals, that, and then this whole banner piece, I glued the vanilla strip to the top, and then this is separate from that. It's just right underneath it. All right, so that's the left page. And then on the right page, okay, yeah, this die cut is labeled as project number 2, and it belongs on project number 1. So just make a note of that on your chart. The other, you might just want to make a note in your instructions. The other thing, I don't think this measurement right here is correct for how far this photo should be over. So I measured it at 3 5/8 of an inch from this side to where this photo placeholder is right there. And then again, I've got my dimensional without the backing pulled off right here. Watch, okay. Right here, watch where you're putting glue. Don't put any glue under here because you're overlapping this photo. If you don't have it there yet, you still need to add that photo. So you don't want to glue these down on top of where your photos go. You may not want to glue them even to your photos anyway. And then here's a linen thread bow. It did say that up here, cut 12 inches of linen thread and tie it in a bow, and that kind of gets tucked up under this label. I think these are great layouts for anybody that likes to do stuff outdoors, go hiking or camping or any of that. We like to do stuff like that, so I'm excited to have these pages to use for that. So this would be your journaling piece right there. And then you've got a little bit of spot right here where you could maybe add, you know, the location and the date of where the photos were taken. All right, that is project 1, the first layout. Let me move that over. And those are my notes on that. All right, so here is the second one. Looks like this. 2-page spread. All right, so it's gonna start and tell you to, it always starts with having you put your placeholders on the pieces that the photos go on. And some people don't like putting these on there, so if you one of those, you don't have to do that. Then it says to cut 9 inches of linen thread and tie it through the tag. This is a die cut, that's right there. And then it says to cut the chevron sticker to 11 inches and trim the ends. So that's for this page. That's for this page right here. And let me just show you what I did. I just went directly on my sticker sheet and I trimmed. So the piece looks like this up here. And I just cut right there along that edge, and then I kind of measured where 11 inches was, and then I cut it on this side to match that angle. So I just cut directly on this sheet here without taking it off and left it there until I was ready to put that page together. So those are your prep things. And then this little black banner right here, I cut it in half because I didn't use, I mean, you could leave it long, but that much of it's going underneath that. And I thought, well, maybe I want to use that for something else. So I cut that in half and put it back into my bag of goodies. Here you're using the dark side of the beige, basic beige, and then you're adding 2A, then 2B. Make sure you've got the direction of your trees facing the correct way. And then 2C is the blue one, and it's actually tucked under this one. So before you put adhesive all the way, just remember you're tucking that in. And then you're gluing the tag and this piece. I did measure down this piece. They had a measurement here and it kind of didn't go to anything. My guess is it shouldn't have been there at all, but I just used it as a measurement for where I placed this banner, and I went 4 3/4 inches down. That's where I put my banner. You don't have to do that. I think this is just a stray measurement left from something different. And again, I did the same thing where like this is on dimensionals, but I didn't pull them off because they're on top of the photo, and the same with that piece right there. There's dimensionals under there, but I haven't pulled the backing off. I like this. Nature rules. Explore, enjoy the land, leave no trace, listen to nature, observe wildlife, respect others, be prepared, take pictures, have fun, relax, and unwind. I think that one's good. All right, so that's your left page. And then here is your right-hand page. So for this one, make sure your trees are facing up. It's going to go edge to edge in this direction with a border on each side. Okay. These two circles are two separate die cuts, so I glued those together. Your blue piece, which is, this is called 2E, this is called 2F. So it is a 9 by 10 inch piece, so make sure that your 9 inches is your wide and your 10 inches is your tall when you're putting that on. And then in the instructions, it tells you to put G, H, I, and J, which are these 4 photo spots down, but then it says don't put adhesive underneath these 2. That's because you have to put this chevron piece. I would just add the chevron sticker under there first. So what I did was I added these 2 photos using the measurements they gave here. So that one's 2.5 inches in, 1 3/4 inches down, the 8-inch separation. So I added those, and then I placed that chevron sticker 1 inch down from the bottom of this. And then I added the photos. This one is lined up. This photo was turned the other direction, but it's still lined up at the bottom and top. And then this little piece, I actually glued it to the back of that photo. It's a little tab. There's that chevron banner under there. Mine I did lower than what they showed. Theirs covers the photo. I decided to go right underneath my photo, and I think that works just as well. There is one little sticker they have here on top of the photo. I didn't add that at all right now. I'll put that on later once I've got a photo there. And I might even choose a different sticker or not put one at all. So you can always change these up, change the stickers. But that's the second one. Those are my tips for that one. All right, and then here is the third layout. This is probably the hardest one to put together because it's going to take you a minute to do this piece. So here's that angled piece that we cut. We cut that at the beginning. So let me tell you how I did that. It tells you to go ahead and to add that piece to the backing. I didn't do that. I went ahead and added all these squares on here before I put it onto my back page. That was just easier for me to deal with this smaller piece and trimming, because you're going to have to trim it than to deal with the bigger piece. So what I did was, where'd my ruler go? I know my ruler's here. The clear ruler disappears. There it is. Okay. So here's my ruler. So what I did was I had just this very vanilla piece, and if you look here on your directions, it has a measurement right here that says 7/8 of an inch in from the edge to the top corner of this piece right here, and then it has a measurement that these are 1/4 of an inch off the top here. So I used my ruler, and first what I did was I measured 1/4 of an inch, and I kind of made myself a tiny little pencil dot at this end and at this end so that I could lay, I laid my ruler down to position all these pieces. But the other measurement that I made was from this top edge right here to the top corner. I measured that 7/8 of an inch, and I put a dot right there. So that dot told me where I wanted this top corner of this piece to land, is right there. And I did kind of lay all of these pieces out. Some of these are pieces that you cut, and some of these are die cut pieces. So on this sheet where they're labeled like 3B, 3D, 3C, 3E, F, G, those are pieces that you cut when you were cutting your paper. And then all these other pieces, like this orange one, this striped one, the green one, this one, yep, the orange, the striped, and the green, those don't have letters on them. That's because those are just die cut pieces. Okay, so you have a mixture. So what I did when I put these on is, after I had my dot where I started and I had these kind of laid out where they were going to go, I didn't glue them down, pretend this is not here. Remember I marked the 1/4 inch, so I laid my ruler down, and I had my ruler on that piece, and this isn't here and this is not there either. So I started by gluing this one down. I had the point where that corner was going to land, and I know how far it needed to be, so it needed to line up right here. So I started with that piece. It's going to hang off the end. There's a 1/4 inch separation between that one and the next one, so then I glued that one down, and I just went along my ruler because that's my straight edge, and then I glued the 1/4 inch separation, the 1/4 inch for the blue one, and then a 1/4 inch for that one, and I glued that top row down. Okay, that was what I did. Then I measured the 1/4 inch between this row and this row and marked it with a pencil so I could lay my ruler down. And then I kind of eyeballed halfway so that this gap was kind of in the middle of this piece. And I think I started by gluing down like either this piece or this piece so I could have that gap. And then I just measured those 1/4 inches and glued that one, got those 4 glued down. Then for the 3rd row, again, I measured my 1/4 inch gap, but I also decided to line these up this way. So this is in a line that way. So I marked again a very tiny little mark of where I wanted this corner to line up. And then I got my ruler out, I glued that one down, and that one down, and then these two. And you probably want your trees facing up, so just pay attention to those. Once I had them all glued, then I turned it over and I trimmed off the pieces that were hanging off the edges, and then I glued that down to my base piece. So that's probably going to take you the longest out of anything on these 3 projects. Okay, that's kind of my explanation. Start here, mark your starting point, do your 1st row, your 2nd row, and then your 3rd row. Okay, and then you can continue where it says to add 3H, then your 3H is actually this striped piece over here, so, and it has a measurement of where it goes. So glue that one down, then glue this, and before you glue that, actually this is a sticker that I just put on the edge, so you don't have to do that. This one's a sticker. This is on there. I'm gonna add that in later. I just have it laying here. That's on dimensionals. And this little vanilla piece, I actually stuck that to the back of the sticker, and then I trimmed it shorter because it came out to about right there. Okay, that's that page. And then the second page is this one. That's where we're using this angled piece. And I used this side where my footprints were facing up. You could also have them facing down. I don't think that matters as much, just kind of your preference. It kind of had north going up on my page. I don't know why I feel like north should be up on my page. Doesn't have to be. So you're gluing your triangle piece down. And then this vanilla piece. Then you've got these little rectangles to add, another striped piece, and then you've got your photo mats. Again, don't glue this one on this edge because it's overlapping the photo. And then there's a little tab under here that I did glue to the back of this photo mat. That's on dimensionals. And then this one I just didn't put glue under there, and this one I will add later after the photos are there. I think that's about it. These are tucked on, this sticker's tucked under there. This is on dimensionals, and this is stuck to that. So I think that's it. So those are my tips for these layouts. So I like all of these layouts. You've got weekend. I think we may go on a weekend trip later this month and do some hiking. So I'll probably, maybe I'll use these layouts, take pictures for us. All right, that is your Weekend Adventures Scrapbook layout tips and tricks. I hope that helps. The Embossing Buddy is helpful. Linen thread. There wasn't any linen thread on that last layout. You could add some somewhere if you wanted. I didn't. I just had it on the first two layouts. All right. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.